I'm a Korean man. I've been mistaken for an idol. I had a surgery. Now I stand where the fathers stand. And I'm about to say something most Korean men never would. Korean men only marry Korean women. You believe that your whole life. You're right. Until now. She doesn't want to, and he can't afford to. And the men left standing are starting to look at you. I'm going to show you why she left, what he's actually looking for now. And at the very end, I'll tell you the one thing Korean men say about foreign women when no Korean woman is listening. Chapter 1. The Collapse. You ever type something into a search bar at 1 a.m. and then delete it? You ever almost send that message and then close the app? Yeah, I know you have. Hold that feeling, because what I'm about to tell you is the reason that feeling exists. Let me give you one number and let it sit. In 1996, Korea had 434,000 weddings. Last year, 222,000. A country cut its own marriage rate in half in one generation. But here's the number that should really wake you up. 77% of Korean women between 30 and 34 are unmarried. Let that land for a second. 77%. Not waiting for the right guy, unmarried. I looked at the deal and I don't want it unmarried. And I need to be really direct with you here. This is not about Korean women being picky. This is about a system that asked women to give up everything. Their career, their name, their freedom. And offered what exactly? The largest gender pay gap in the entire OECD for almost 30 years straight. More than 40% of Korean women leave the workforce after getting married. Not because they want to, because the system wasn't built for them to stay. You hear that? 40%. Just like that. That's not a pay gap. That's a trap with a wedding ring on it. And then there's the cost, right? Korea is the most expensive country on earth to raise a child. $275,000 from birth to 18. And 80% of kids go to private cram school on top of regular school. Korean parents spent $19 billion on private tutoring in 1 year. That's not parenting. That's a second mortgage disguised as homework. I know this because I'm raising kids in this system right now. I see the bills. I see the pressure. I see what it does to people. And honestly, I understand why someone will look at this and walk away. So Korean women looked at their mothers' faces, not their words, their faces, and said no, not quietly, not politely, no. Chapter 2. The war nobody talks about now. Here's where it gets dark. And honestly, this is the part most creators won't touch because it makes everyone uncomfortable. Korean men and Korean women are not just drifting apart. They are at war, not with weapons, with silence. There's a movement called 4B, 4 Korean words that all start with BI, meaning no. No dating, no sex, no marriage, no children. Korean women looked at the entire menu and sent it back. In the 2025 presidential election, 74% of Korean men in their 20s voted conservative. Only 36% of women in the same age group did the same. That's not a political gap. That's 2 countries sharing 1 passport. And before you come at me for taking sides, I'm not. I'm inside this system. I'm raising the next generation inside it. And I'll be honest. When you're a father in Korea, you see both sides whether you want to or not. You see why she's angry, and you see why he's lost. If that makes sense. A friend of mine got married 3 years ago. His mother gave him and his wife a list. Not a shopping list, a life list. When to have the first child, what neighborhood to move to, what brand of stroller to buy, and the last item, I swear this is real, was what age their son should start piano lessons. The kid wasn't born yet, but his schedule was already locked in. That's Korean marriage. 2 people handed a blueprint that someone else drew 30 years ago and told, just follow this. It worked for us. Except it didn't work for them either. They just never had the option to say so. You know when the cracks first showed? 2003. Korea hit a divorce rate of 3.4 per thousand, the highest ever. That was the year Korean women first started earning enough to leave. The marriages didn't suddenly get worse in 2003. Women just finally had enough money, to be honest. And now a whole generation of daughters watched their mother swallow that honesty for decades and decided, I'm not swallowing anything. So what did the government do? They panicked. They threw money at it. $270 billion. I need you to hear that number again. $270 billion. Cash bonuses for babies. Subsidized housing. Extended parental leave. You know what that bought them? Nothing. The birth rate is still 0.75, the lowest on earth. For the 5th year in a row, you can't subsidize desire. You can't write a check that makes a woman feel respected. And you definitely can't build a policy that replaces the one thing Korean marriage forgot to include: choice. Chapter 3. The door. So here's what happened next. And stay with me, because this is where it starts to matter for you. When Korean women walked away, Korean men didn't just sit there. Some of them, quietly, started looking somewhere else. In 1995, international marriages were 13,500. Just 3.4% of all weddings. By 2005, it had exploded. 1 in 7 marriages involved a foreign spouse. Then COVID hit. Everything crashed. Down to 13,000 in 2021. But watch what happened after. 2022, it bounced back. 16,666. 2023, it climbed again. 19,700. 2024, it kept going. 20,800. 3 years straight. And nobody is talking about it. Now I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but that's arranged marriages with Southeast Asian women through agencies, right? And honestly, you're partly right. Vietnamese brides are the largest group, about 32% of foreign wives. That pattern is real, and it comes with its own problems that deserve a whole separate video. But here's what the statistics miss. They missed the Korean guy on a dating app at midnight Seoul time, matching with someone in Texas. They missed the DMs that started with "I love your country" and turned into something neither of them expected. They missed the man who flew 12 hours to meet someone his mother has never heard of. Korean dating apps are 80% male. 80%. These men are not swiping for fun. They're desperate for connection in a country where the women have left the building. And it's going international now. There's a dating app called Whippy that launched Korea-Japan matching last year. 320,000 users across both countries. Korean men matching with Japanese women at more than double the reverse rate. That's not a trend. That's a migration of desire. But why? Why outside? I talk to these men a lot. And they all say some version of the same thing, but they never say it in front of Korean women. They only say it when it's just us. One guy, 36, engineer, decent salary, told me he went on over 40 blind dates. 40. Set up by his mother, his coworkers, his aunt's friend's cousin. And every single one of those women checked his salary, checked his apartment, checked his car. Not a single one asked him what he likes to do on a Sunday. He told me I wasn't a person, I was a spreadsheet. These are not lazy men. These are not men who can't compete. These are men who are tired of competing for the right to be human. And then they meet someone from outside the system. Someone who doesn't know the checklist exists. Someone who asks, "What do you want?" instead of "What do you have?" And for the first time in their adult life, they feel like a person instead of a resume. I talk to women like you too. The ones who message me asking, "Is this real? Does he actually like me? Or am I just convenient?" Here's what one of them told me. She was 43, divorced, 2 kids of her own. She said, "Sibong, I've been talking to this man for 6 months and he asked me what my favorite meal is. Not to impress me, just to know." And she started crying. Not because it was romantic, because nobody had asked her that in 15 years. That's not a K-drama moment. That's a real moment. And those real moments are happening more often than any statistic will ever show you. Chapter 4. The part you don't want to hear. Okay, so here's where I need to flip this on you. And I'm sorry in advance, but someone has to say it. You've been watching Korean men through a screen for years. The perfect face, the six-pack, the way he grabs her wrist in episode 7. And you built an image, a beautiful, detailed, completely fictional image. I know, because I've been that image. I've had the surgery. I've stood on that stage. I know what it feels like to be the product this system builds. And I'll be honest with you. I wasn't just the product. I believed in the product. I thought if I looked right, performed right, checked all the boxes, I'd earn something real. And you know what I got? I got evaluated. Just like every other Korean man. The face passed, the resume passed, but nobody ever asked me if I was okay. And I'm telling you, the product is not real. The man who might actually be available to you, he's not that. He's 34. He works until 9 p.m. He lives in a studio apartment the size of your bathroom. He calls his mother every single day, not because he wants to, but because if he doesn't, she will call him. He has never cooked a meal in his life, and he's been told since birth that his value as a man depends on his job title and his apartment size. That's not a K-drama prince. That's a pressure cooker with a nice face. But here's the thing you need to understand. That pressure cooker is exhausted. He's exhausted from performing the role his father performed. He's exhausted from being told he's not enough by a society that keeps moving the goalposts. So when he meets someone who doesn't care about his apartment size, someone who doesn't check his watch brand, someone who looks at him and sees a person instead of a provider's score, something cracks. Not in a dramatic K-drama way, in a quiet way, like a man who's been holding his breath for 10 years finally exhaling. And you know what? You have a version of this too. Because you've been filtering yourself just as hard. You've been so busy building the fantasy version of him that you forgot he might need the unfantasy version of you. The real you. The one without the filter. The one who's tired. The one who's been hurt before. The one who sometimes eats cereal for dinner and calls it self-care. You want real? Then you have to be real first. Because the moment you show up as a fantasy, looking for a fantasy, you become just another wall. And he's had enough walls. You know what's funny? I made a video a while back about Korean men dating foreign women. And the comments from Korean men were split right down the middle. Half of them said, finally someone said it. The other half said, you're embarrassing us. That's split. That's the old Korea fighting the new Korea in real time. And the new Korea is winning, whether the old Korea likes it or not. Chapter 5, What Happens Now? So where does this leave you? Korea's population is projected to shrink by more than half in the next 100 years. 1 in 5 newlywed couples last year had a bride older than the groom. That would have been unthinkable 1 generation ago. The old rules are dissolving, not fast. Not loudly, but steadily. Like ice that nobody notices melting until the glass is empty. Does this mean you should book a flight to Incheon tomorrow? No. What it means is, the story you've been telling yourself, the one where you're permanently on the outside, that story is out of date. The wall isn't gone, but it's cracking. And the cracks, honestly, are wider than most people realize. So let me tell you now. The thing I said I'd tell you at the end. The one thing Korean men say about foreign women when no Korean woman is listening. She doesn't make me perform. That's it. That's the whole secret. Not she's prettier. Not she's easier. Not she's more obedient. She doesn't make me perform. That one sentence is the crack in the wall. And this is where the second act begins. Because there is one thing this system was never engineered to handle. It's not politics. It's not economics. It's not feminism. It's a woman who doesn't play by Korean rules because she never learned them. And that is either the most dangerous thing or the most beautiful thing, depending on which side of the wall you're standing on. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been told you're not the right type, not the right age, not the right nationality, not the right look? I want to hear that story because I think you've been keeping it to yourself for way too long. Stay real, because that's what I crave. This is Sibong Records. See you in the next video.